Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this Triangles Meditation Group webinar for Monday, March the 21st, 2022. It's the first day after the March equinox and the first day outside of the 5-day period of the Pisces full moon. So it's a pretty good time for us to be working together. Let's begin. I see there's 122 of us now together on this call, so we are together as one group in consciousness. And let's begin with a moment of silence, followed by a sounding together of this noontime recollection. We know, O Lord of life and love, about the need. Touch our hearts anew with love, that we too may love and give. So, my name is Steve Nation, and I'm delighted to be your host today for the Triangles Meditation Group. As most of you know, these regular weekly webinars have two major goals, both of which have the aim and intention of strengthening the planetary network. First, to introduce new people to triangles and hopefully stimulate the formation of new triangles. So I do hope that we have some new faces on this list of participants with us today. You're very welcome. And the second purpose is to create a space where existing Triangles members can come together to share in a meditative visualization in support of the Triangles work, and to hear reflections and to share ideas about world service through the power of thought from different Triangles workers. Today's webinar is focused on the theme, the Triangles Network of Light in Times of Crisis in Human Affairs, and we certainly are in such a time. We'll begin with some introductory remarks about triangles, followed by some thoughts on light. And then we'll work with the visualization which regular participants in this webinar are familiar with. And then this will be followed by a conversation with our guest, Alexander Ilchuk, a Triangles worker from Ukraine who lives in the US and is currently in Europe assisting a number of refugee families. And Alexander is also a member of the leadership team and one of the founders of the 2025 initiative, which offers a series of programs and networking activities for world servers. So if you're new to Triangles, welcome. The network is made up of individuals around the planet who come from different spiritual backgrounds and who share a common belief in the powerful role that meditation, prayer, and invocation can play in the creation of a better world. The name Triangles is significant at many levels. After all, the triangle, the three as one, is one of the most fundamental symbols in almost all spiritual and esoteric traditions. The Triangles network is made up of groups, units of 3 people who agree to link in thought every day, visualizing themselves as a triangle of light, and together as a triangle, invoking energies of light and goodwill. Each triangle is part of the global network, and the light and energies of divinity that are invoked are visualized as flowing out from each triangle through the network of triangles and into the world of human consciousness, the world of time and space, strengthening all that is good and true and beautiful in the world. The network's been built over many decades, so it's substantial, it's strong, and it can be envisaged as a strong, well-established, potent structure in the etheric or energetic body of humanity, through which spiritual energies flow into the consciousness of all to touch those hearts and minds that are open to spiritual stimulation. Many participants in the network draw at least some of their spiritual inspiration from the esoteric and theosophical teachings found in the books by Alice Bailey. This is because Alice Bailey, from these teachings, the Triangle's work was established and founded. The teachings contain a strong emphasis on the triangular nature of the human psyche, with its threefold worlds of spirit, soul, and incarnated personality. And along with many, many other teachings, they explore the spiritual path as a path of bridging between these three primary qualities or aspects of being: spirit, soul, and incarnated personality. Triangles is one of the service activities of the Lucis Trust, which is the umbrella organization that was established in 1919 by Alice Bailey. I'm sorry, in 1921, established by Alice Bailey. It's important to point out, however, that Triangles doesn't exist to promote the Alice Bailey teachings, and it's not a movement exclusively for Alice Bailey students. Triangles workers come from different spiritual traditions, and this is one of the things that gives the network its potency. What unites these different workers is their use of the Great Invocation and their willingness to use the power of thought solely as a means of serving humanity. And that's the key. Using the power of thought as a way of serving in the building of a better world and providing a network of interlinked minds and hearts, actively invoking the subtle energies of the higher worlds. Light manifesting in the thoughts that come as the mind begins to penetrate into and be touched by ideas and thoughts of the soul, and love manifesting in relationships with self and others that are colored by goodwill and by a natural concern for the well-being of all. The work of Triangles is organized and structured. It depends on the regular participation of Triangles partners in the simple daily act of alignment with the two other points of the triangle and use of the Great Invocation, calling on transcendent higher energies of light and love and the will to good, that these energies may flow into and work out through all fields of human relationships, driving the evolution of culture and civilization towards a new, yet to be emerged phase of wholeness and interdependence. The work doesn't need to be synchronized. In other words, there's no need for the 3 points in a triangle to link up at the same time or to be physically together, because the work is done in the subjective realms outside of time and space. If you're new to this work and respond to the idea of planetary service, you might like to consider forming a triangle. Or if you are already a member of Triangles, you might consider forming another. The more people who participate, the more spiritual energy will be released into our world, and this is especially true of those who are already consciously treading a spiritual path and developing skills in work with the lighted, loving energies of the soul, or higher self, or Buddha nature. There's information you can find out about this work on the Triangles website at www.triangles.org. That will tell you how to form a triangle, and there's a section where you can form a triangle online by entering your details and inviting others to contact you to form a triangle. Or you can enter a request in the chat box during the webinar today, and others on the call may well agree to form a triangle with you. I've often seen this happening during webinars. If you have questions about triangles, please don't hesitate to ask these in the chat box or ask them in the discussion period towards the end of the call. But for now, that's the introduction done, and let's just pause for a moment and work together with a simple visualization. Remembering that we're working together as a group. Right now I see there are 184 of us. So we come together as one group. And we begin as you visualize yourself as the soul. Visualize yourself as the divine self, a radiant center of light and love. And as this center, in your mind's eye, see your closest spiritual companions also as radiant centers of light and love. Know that all human beings have this center of divine light and love within them. Over the years and decades, a radiant living network of triangles has been built around the planet through the daily work of Triangle's members. Visualize lighted, loving energies flowing through this network from the mind of God, from the heart of God, and from the center where the will of God is known. See these energies of divinity flowing through the network. And imagine how they enliven all who are treading a spiritual path. Imagine how they flow through small groups of servers everywhere on the planet, and flow into the broad consciousness of humanity. Imagine how they carry with them hope, vision, inspiration, restoring the love of humanity with its accompanying spirit of companionship and service to all cultures and peoples, to all kingdoms of nature and all elements of life. So, friends, today we're going to be directing our attention to the energy of light flowing through the Triangles network. And later we'll discuss the role that these energies might play during times of crisis in human affairs. Throughout the ages, spiritual traditions have referred to the light that is to be found at the core of our being, the hidden light or the light of the presence, the light of the divine self. The radiation of the divine is registered by the human as a radiation of light. And as we build a relationship within that light within ourselves, we ourselves can become transmitters of that light. Our whole identity and sense of who we are can become immersed in that light. There's an understanding here that the substance of the higher worlds, if you like, the subtle matter of these worlds, is itself light. It's a lighted substance. And as one's eyes become a little accustomed to that light, so then does a greater light become visible. As we work in some organized way within ourselves, with meditation, study of some ageless wisdom teaching from any of the great traditions, and with a disciplined, willful intent to live a life of service, As we do these things over a period of time, we do become a point of light, illuminating the way forward in the realms of time and space, because we have this body of knowledge, this body of lighted knowledge, which we are making real. Ancient teachings suggest that humanity is itself, as a species, the planetary light bearer. And that's really something to ponder, because the suggestion is that as a species of nature, it's our purpose to transmit the light of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding into the planetary life. And we could also say that as a species, as we evolve, evolution is about our increasingly skillful and conscious becoming of the planetary light bearer. The light of knowledge can be understood in so many different ways. At face value, I guess it refers to any form of knowledge that makes something clear and understandable. Every academic discipline, for example, has at its core a body of knowledge which reveals something of the nature of what is being studied. In other words, it brings light. But within this, there is a knowledge which can see into the beingness of the object under exploration. And the ability to see something of the life and the meaning and the purpose of that which is being studied can be thought of as shining a light into that field. We can think of this form of knowledge as an acquired aspect of mind, something that can be developed, particularly the ability to bring to light, to bring out of the darkness of unknowing, aspects of the self that reflects the ancient habits of selfishness and separation. This is an important role for knowledge, because as we see those aspects of the self reflecting these ancient habits in ourselves, we also see them in all others. And this development of the light of mind, of what might be called the full mind, when we think of mindfulness, is what the Buddha teaches so much about. It shines a light on veils that hide the real, and makes it possible for these veils to be revealed to us, so that through time they lose their hold over our identity. Light, as it's used by the mind, reveals knowledge, knowledge that can then lead into soul light, or the light of wisdom, can lead into wise understanding of what has been revealed, leading to the possibility for wise action in crafting a path which will free the soul from its imprisonment in desire and identification with the worlds of time and space, and can leave the soul free to shape and maneuver through time and space, transforming the three worlds in line with the purposes and intentions of soul. There are today so countless thousands of individuals who are on this path, learning for the soul to be free to shape and maneuver time and space. In the triangle's work, individual points of light consciously link up into triangles of light to transmit any glimmers of the light of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom that the individual units within these triangles have managed to develop during their lives. And so it is that the network of all of these triangles of light becomes itself a radiant field, receiving higher light and transmitting that light. But for now, friends, nearly 200 of us, let us work with the webinar visualization. On these calls, these weekly webinars, we might say that this work with this visualization is the essential work that we've gathered to do. So let us begin by integrating as a group. 196 units become one group field. As we focus ourselves as this group centered upon the mental plane, and as we link up in thought as a soul, a point of love and light within all those people throughout the world who are working right now with this Triangles meditation group. And we say together as one group, in the center of the will of God I stand. Naught shall deflect my will from His. I implement that will by love. I turn towards the field of service. I, the triangle divine, work out that will within the square and serve my fellow men. And now, use the creative imagination to visualize a link with two other points of light, two other servers, to create between the three of us a triangle of light. And see this triangle embedded within the radiant worldwide network of triangles. Hold the consciousness immersed within the light of the group soul, the heart of love, which underlies and infuses the network. And now lift your consciousness to the world teacher, standing as the heart of love at the center of the spiritual hierarchy, and also standing at the heart of each and every triangle. Precipitation. Visualize the higher energies of love and light and goodwill circulating in and around and through the triangle's network. And now visualize these energies unifying and eliminating all divisions within humanity, healing and transforming consciousness, and establishing right human relationships. Now let's use together the Mantra of Unification. The souls of all are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form, and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate, and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love. Visualize the whole planet alight with triangles, and see new triangles being formed everywhere, all over the planet. distribution. Imagine that we are together sounding the great invocation. Some will sound it silently, some will sound it aloud. And as you repeat each stanza, visualize the network acting as a link between the world of spiritual realities and the world of humanity, and acting as a channel through which light, love, and divine purpose are flowing into human consciousness. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into human minds. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into human hearts. May the coming one return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide all little human wills, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. So, thank you, friends. It's now my pleasure to welcome Alexander. Can you unmute yourself, Alexander, please? And
big pleasure and joy.
it's wonderful to hear your voice. It's good to hear from you. And thank you so much for taking this time to share. Alexander is a Triangles worker. He was born and is a Ukrainian citizen, and he lives in Alexander, I hope it's okay if I talk just a little about you, and then we'll move into this discussion. Alexander lives in the United States for much of his past few years, has been living in the United States, and is closely attached and associated with Ukraine and also with Russia. And in this present crisis, which is of course the Ukrainian crisis, which is in a way is why we've scheduled this meeting for today, simply drawing on these organic relationships he has through his life. He traveled to Poland, and at the Polish border managed to help a number of families who are families that he knows and has contact with from his youth. Some families of people involved in Alice Bailey work and studies of the Alice Bailey teachings in Ukraine. And Alexander, together with these families, help them get themselves together, obviously all highly traumatized, moved to a base in Vienna where they took time to gather themselves and for the families to plan where they were going next. And right now, I think, Alexander, I think I'm correct in thinking you've taken a family that you knew very well when you were young, and you've taken them, and you're now in the community of living ethics in Umbria in Italy, where this family will be living for a time. So that's the setting in which we're going to have this discussion. How are you, Sasha? You're okay?
Yes, I'm good. And
Good.
thank you very much for inviting me. And yeah, it's this special time of equinox. So I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. New astrological year.
It absolutely is. And in a way, it's wonderful to just have this little background of your story, of your trip to where you are, because that relates us to humanity. It relates us to the experience that humanity undergoes during a time of crisis, the trauma that's involved, the terrific stimulation of the emotional system, the suffering that's involved, and through it all, the strength and courage of those who are seeking to craft a way forward through the crisis. So, Alexander, the plan is to discuss the role that a network of light, like the Triangles Network, the role that a network of light can play in times when the whole of human consciousness has been disturbed by a crisis like this, when the lighted part of humanity comes into interaction with elements that are in need of redemption through a whole variety of causes, isn't it? So what's your thinking about the role that a network like Triangles might play?
So we all know that of the esoteric importance of the triangles, but in a way, in a very practical way, it's an essential part of the larger unfolding plan. How the humanity can be helped, and how humanity can organize itself to help. Just a few days ago, I think it's already been here, the community of living ethics, been meditating with our coworkers, and suddenly for me, the last stanza of the Great Invocation stood out very vividly. And probably for the first time, I realized that it's a formula. It's like a recipe for a cake. It's the humanity, the center of humanity through which the plan has to work out. And networks of triangles works is one of the methods, and probably through its simplicity and yet efficiency, it's a unique way to distribute the light that comes to the planet that we're all witnessing and experiencing, making it available to where it's needed, to on the front lines, to all the people of goodwill who actually working as those points of anchoring the light on the physical plane. And that's how the doorway evil dwells is closed, by simple acts of what we call simple acts of kindness, but it's just by actual being where we are and radiating, being radiant centers of light and love. In preparation to this meeting, Steve and I had a little conversation, and I can say, Steve invoked in me this image when he asked me, like, how do you see the triangles, the network of triangles? And a image came to me of electric grid. Through my first degree, I'm an electric engineer, and I studied electrical systems and networks. And you probably all have a general understanding how electrical grid works. So there is somewhere a power station, and there is a distribution network. So first, like a line that brings transports electricity to some place where it distributes before it gets to our outlet in our home. So in a way, that's how the network of light works, the networks of triangles. And in a way, our triangles that we have, and it's that unit of receiving and transforming the high voltage of the energy of will into the energy of goodwill. And we receive that energy. We work as a step down transformers that energy could be received by all people of goodwill. So in a way, we're essential. Through this activity of triangles, we form an essential living link in this chain of distribution for this powerful energies that the planet is now bathed in. It's
beautiful. That's beautiful, Alexander. I mean, as you came up with that during our earlier conversation, it's a wonderful image because it draws attention to the network as a whole.
Yes.
Like the electricity network is a whole network, and I love that triangles is a whole network. And one of the ideas of triangles too that fits into that is that it consciously links not only triangle units, but you can visualize it linking all points of light. So you imagine now every human being who is consciously seeking to bring purpose and will and craft a spiritual life of meaning and purpose. That's now a big, muscular, strong group in humanity. And the Triangles Network sort of reaches out and includes all of these points. And as you say, invokes and radiates. It's a wonderful image. I love this thing of centering all of that in that final stanza of the Great Invocation, and also the last line, may it seal the door where evil dwells. Because a crisis involves at some level the relationship between the forces of light and the forces that are restricting or holding back that light. And in a way, both play an important role in the bringing of light down into incarnation.
Yes, and we know that humanity is a evolutionary front line, and that's the course of evolution is decided in the humanity. And it's done, not in an abstract way, but in a very practical routine of life and the choices we make. And yes, and those choices, they require energy. They require that presence of life energy. And we talk often like energy, but and the end of the day, it's that that energy that becomes the force of vitality in us, and that allows us to sustain the efforts in making things that we have to to do on the physical plane.
Mhm.
And it's not only us, but all people of goodwill and all people in general. There is a beautiful book by Russian author Mikhail Bulgakov, Master and Margarita, where there's Jesus and Pontius Pilatus talk to each other, and Jesus been tortured, and he yet says, like, but all people are good. And Pontius says, like, really, like, even that guy who just tortured you, he's also good. And he says, yes, he's also good, but he just forgot about that. And so it's that energy that keeps our vitality and keeps our memory that we are actually good, all as humanity. And it's that energy that we as triangles workers, we meditate, receiving, transforming, and distributing. That's our part of work.
It's beautiful because it brings to light this goodness that Pontius Pilate couldn't see, but it brings to light the goodness, because often that gets hidden. I mean, in me it gets hidden, and in all of us it's part of the human experience. And the value of a network of light is that it provides the environment, the sort of psychosphere, within which that recognition of the fundamental goodness, that's at the heart of who we are, to come into consciousness. And in a way, that's knowledge, that's light, the light of knowledge.
Yes.
It's interesting, your focus on that last stanza too, because sealing the door where evil dwells, that's quite an interesting idea, because that idea suggests that the sort of shadow side of human nature, which is really just the substance that part of being a human being is redeeming substance, transforming and redeeming substance. We're agents of redemption and transformation. But the evil is outside of and beyond the human. It's a force opposed to the forces of light. It's the opposite force. And as the human grows in light, and as we become more lighted, we close the door to allow those dark forces to enter in. And in a way, in times of real crisis like that, this is what's happening. We're by drawing attention to the intensity of the work we're doing to create a network of light. Each one of us, that's the response, the appropriate response to my mind, to a crisis like this. And then, of course, if you happen to be in your situation, you act in ways that are natural and human and appropriate. And even in Ukraine, the necessity to stand up for what is right, if that involves a battle, to respond to the battle as a warrior.
It's a big and complex question, and in this time, we as humanity and each of us individually, we are facing the dweller, our collective dweller and our individual dweller. But in more just down to earth level, it's as the war expressed itself on the physical plane. My personal impression, that we as humanity, we're in the same situation that we were 70, 80 years ago, where the evil force had focused expression. And decay tells us that we as disciples, we cannot deal with that force in any way. We shouldn't do that. But we should rather focus on what is actually within our reach, and focusing the will to good and working with the energy of love, leaving for the hierarchy to do work of dealing with that force. But the fact that that force is present now, so into our face, it makes the presence of shadow is obvious everywhere, including ourselves. And that's where we can and should and must deal with that. We cannot do anything about that big force that's expressed over there through that war, but we can, it's time of great transparency and the great work within with own dweller, and do what we can to help those who are around us, and express love in a direct way.
That's perfect, Alexander. That's perfect. Look, I'd like to bring in the group so we can look at. So, can you see the chat, Sasha? Can you?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And if anyone wants to raise their hands, Joshua's got his hand raised, so maybe we'll start there. Joshua, would you like to unmute?
Hi, Steve and Sasha. On our YouTube live stream, somebody asked a question in, I think it's Russian. I put it in Google Translate, and she says, what's her name? Svetlana Tutina. She says, good afternoon. Question, why is there no Russia in the list of countries participating in the meditation, daily meditative visual, Aries cycle? It is important to meditate together in a single striving for goodness, love.
Thanks for sharing that, Joshua. Sorry, what did you say the name of the woman was?
Svetlana Putina, I believe, yes.
Yeah, I'll post the original comment in the chat here.
Perfect, thank you.
If that helps.
And Sasha, you no doubt will want to respond, but just to affirm that in the Triangles Network, Russian speakers, and there's a whole Russian language section of Triangles, are very strongly involved. As it's and in all of the work of Lucis Trust, there's a Russian language section which works with people from Russia. So that would be the response that I would have. But Sasha, would you have anything?
Yeah, I believe that question relates to the daily vigil that the 2025 initiative focuses on its platform. It's, for those who don't know, it's a daily meditation, 20 minutes meditations that started 2 years ago with the focus to invoke the soul consciousness in humanity in response to the current crisis. If I'm correct about that question, it's yes, we have the representatives from Russia who meditate with us, and we know many workers, light workers in Russia, and who part of the global grid of light workers.
Thank you. In the chat, I just noticed this. There's an interesting chat from Nick. We're at a point of crisis and opportunity to create a new way to think about international relationships and to create new forms for right human relationships with the events we're facing at present. Group meditation is a means to help bring this about. That to me is a wonderful, that's true. And what I really like about that is that we are facing this challenge in international relations, particularly in this situation. There is no clear, simple, straightforward response to what is right, the right next step. There will be different opinions about it, but there is no straightforward, clear response. So therefore, group meditation to bring light and depth to our thinking, and skill to diplomacy, and a spirit of goodwill into diplomacy in very testing, complex situations such as the one being faced here, which is the source of so much suffering. Group meditation that doesn't focus on the particular issue, but that simply seeks to anchor the light that is present in humanity, seems to me to be the most important way we can respond. Sasha?
I agree. I agree that the focused meditation it's a powerful tool. At some place, the Treatise of Cosmic Fire Decay tells us that um, that's he talks about that there's like a very distant constellation which is like a very powerful has a center of love, and he said that that information cannot be given because if people will start meditating on that within a focused way, it will create such an influx of love that it will upset the whole evolutionary process. And he says like because humanity still doesn't understand the power of focused meditation, so therefore we are safe in that regard. But he, in many cases, he alludes to that if the disciples would recognize the power of meditation as a tool, and he specifically talks about the world war, that if that just 30 meditators could do their work properly, they could avert the world war back in the 1930s. So yes, but there's also one element in this question. It's in terms of right human relationships international system. I think through the current crisis, the whole architecture, the international security architecture, in a way is collapsing. And it's opportunity for the new system to emerge. I absolutely agree with that. And my strong belief is that the new international architecture will be based on the United Nations of people, not United Nations of governments, as it's been for the last 70 years. So pretty much what we're doing also, it's besides the work of triangles meditation, we connect as people of goodwill across the globe in different countries. And we create actually the new structure, the new security structure by speaking to each other directly. And that's the new system, international system for international cooperation that's emerging through activities like this.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. It's an interesting thought. That's very interesting, Alexander. David David Trice brings up a quote from Externalization of the Hierarchy: "The coming science of electricity will be as different next century as the modern usages of electricity differ from the understanding of the Victorian scientist." That's true. We can already see that that's starting to happen with nuclear fusion, with the various ideas of the electric universe. And then Violet, she brings attention to, it's been impressed that the fourth stanza of the Great Invocation should be said frequently throughout the day, with a focus on the spirit of humanity expressing its unfolding purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's again, we as humanity, we are focused not only on this planet, but with a larger cosmos. Humanity on this planet is in the forefront, and the choices we make and the define big chain of events that could unfold as a result of that.
Exactly. Now I see from the chat that Barbara Valakor has raised her hand, and although there's no hand raised, but Barbara, would you unmute yourself, please?
Hello, Barbara.
Hello, Alexander, Sasha. It was great to hear you.
Good to hear you.
I couldn't see how to raise my hand on the chat. I actually wrote this question in the chat, which is, how do you see the role of the new group of world servers in your present experience?
Well,
I know you can speak to that.
Yes. Well, in a way, we are now in a very intense time of unfoldment of the new group of world service. I see it as a like global mandala, dynamic mandala that unfolds, or we can maybe imagine, like, see it as a, like, you know, that unfolding antenna of the those space telescopes that we all observe. So now on the planet, the world group comes into realization, or first unfoldment of its capacity as that grid of light that we're talking about. We, throughout the last decades, we've been consistently forming this grid. And second, what's happening when we already have this network of light, second is to come into realization of our potency and realization of our unity of purpose. That's what is now important. That in a way, World Service Group is that unifying tissue for humanity. What we are experiencing all together is we coming into recognition of us being one group, one organism, and group not just as a small group, but as rather as an organism. And it's if we do it correctly, collectively, if we do it right, then everything will go right. Like, putting in simple words, because that's my understanding. That's it's an important part of the unfolding plan. That actually the new group of world service, as the most advanced part of humanity, take responsibility for what is happening on the planet. And even we as collectively, as humanity, will probably still be for centuries yet to trying to solve many problems. But if the most advanced part of humanity will do its job right now, in the next few years, it will lay out the opportunity for the rest of humanity to kind of to catch up in the coming centuries. And the World Service Group, as we know, it's not just esoteric groups, it's all the world service. And there is a beautiful quote from Antoine Saint-Exupéry from The Little Prince, that love is looking in the same direction. And so in a way, it's for us all together, all the world group service, all world groups, to recognize that we united by looking in the same direction. And that's our connecting mechanism, or connecting, uniting substance. Love is looking the same direction. We all love humanity, and we all want humanity to succeed.
That's interesting. That's a beautiful answer, Alexander, I think.
There was one question. Do we have another minute?
Yeah.
There was another question from Heidi. That could we say that the Triangles network is like a transformer of Shambhala energy? In a way, yes. It's probably more complex than that, and but yes, we know that the Shambhalic impulse of 2000 is been unfolding for the last 2 decades, and in a way, we as humanity dealing with the energy of Shambhala, energy of will, more and more in a direct way. And Decay told us that when the shambhalic impact of 1925 came to the physical plane, to the unfoldment, it was the role of the disciples to create the network of light, to perceive that energy and distribute it to people of goodwill. And because they failed in that task, that energy of Shambhala got to the physical plane and to forces of materialism got in hold of that energy. So in a way, the work of the network of triangles is to not to repeat the same mistake as it happened 100 years ago, and to actually receive that energy of Shambhala, transform it and distribute it, and that way to keep that energy as much as possible from the forces of materialism.
That's exactly, and so in a way, if you look at the triangles network, you can take it down to each point of light, each unit within a triangle. So each point of light, a crisis like this challenges each unit to take another step into light, another step deeper, to deepen their life, their meaning, their sort of the transparency with which they're able to serve. And it's just a question of taking the next step. And so you imagine then, if in a network like triangles, each point of light takes a step deeper, deeper into love, deeper into the light which is within them. Does that in harmony with the two others, so you have a triangle of light, and then this whole network, and then reaching out beyond triangles to include all the people in my community and all of our communities who are truly seeking to lead a good life in this world. That's the way you see the Shambhala impact touching purpose. And in a crisis like this and all the other crises that have led up to it, you know, all the coronavirus, all the divisions, the partisanship, I think there'll be more. Each point of light, and then the whole network stepping deeper, living with more sense of meaning, with more sense of the sort of more true love of what the human is and true love of life. That's how life itself will evolve and is evolving. But I think you put that beautifully, Alexander. Look, we probably are out of time. So we are. It's nearly 4:10. Thank you, everybody. It's always a joy working in this work. And Alexander, thank you so much, because you've brought something special and unique into this discussion. And I know I speak on behalf of all of us when I say thank you, and thank you for all that you're doing. And it's a joy to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We are all together in this. All
That's
of us.
it. That's it. That's exactly it. Okay, friends, let's just have a moment of silence together. 140 of us still here. That's good. Thank you. And so we move forward into the rest of our day. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.